Rain tapped against the window of St. Martin's home for boys. Tiny drops raced down the glass like tears. Inside, Brix Miller sat alone on his narrow bed. The mattress sagged in the middle from years of use. His room was small, just big enough for a bed, a desk, and a small dresser with 3 drawers. Brix was 17 years old. His brown hair hung over eyes that rarely looked up. He was tall and thin with shoulders that curved forward as if trying to make himself smaller. In his hands, he held the only picture he had of his parents. The photo was old and bent at the corners. His mother smiled, holding a baby that was him. His father stood tall beside them. I don't even remember what your voices sound like, Brix whispered to the picture. Outside his door, loud footsteps came closer. Brix quickly slid the picture under his pillow. 3 boys walked in, without knocking. Hey, orphan boy, said the biggest one, a boy named Dex, with spiky hair and mean eyes. Still talking to ghosts. The other boys laughed. Brix said nothing. He looked down at his hands, which were rough from the yard work he did on weekends. Cat got your tongue. Dex pushed Brix's shoulder hard. Leave me alone, Brix said softly. What was that? Dex cupped his ear. I can't hear you, he said. Leave him alone, came a voice from the doorway. It was Mrs. Peterson, one of the nicer staff members. She was short, with gray hair pulled back in a bun. Her eyes were kind but tired. Boys, it's dinner time. Go wash up. Dex and his friends left, but not before Dex knocked Brix's books off his desk. The crash made Brix jump. Mrs. Peterson sighed. Don't let them get to you, Brix. They're just scared of being alone, same as everyone else here. When she left, Brix picked up his books. One was a first aid manual. 6 months ago, the school had offered a free CPR class. Brix had been the best student. The teacher said he had healing hands. It was the only compliment he could remember getting. The next morning was Saturday. Brix woke up early before the sun. He liked the quiet. He put on his jeans, a faded blue t-shirt, and his only jacket, too thin for the cool morning, but better than nothing. His weekend job was delivering newspapers. The pay wasn't much, just enough for small things he needed. A new notebook, socks without holes, or saving up for when he would have to leave St. Martin's next year. The streets were empty as Brix walked his route. His breath made little clouds in the cold air. The paper bag hung heavy on his shoulder. 53 papers to deliver. He knew the exact number, just like he knew exactly how many steps it took to walk from one house to the next. His route ended at the edge of town, where nice houses gave way to old buildings and shops with faded signs. The smell of fried food and coffee came from Joe's Diner. Every Saturday, motorcycles lined up outside, big ones with shiny chrome that rumbled like thunder. Brix always walked faster past Joe's. The men who gathered there wore leather jackets with patches that said, Hell's Angels. They had long beards and tattoos on their arms. Their voices were loud and their laughs even louder. Keep your head down, Brix reminded himself. Don't make eye contact. That's what he always did. Stayed invisible. It was safer that way. At school, at St. Martin's, everywhere. If no one saw you, no one could hurt you. As he hurried past, a feeling crawled up his spine. Something was different. Today, the air felt heavy, like before a storm. More bikes than usual were parked outside the diner. Through the window he could see people moving around faster than normal. Brix clutched his bag tighter. Just 3 more papers to deliver. Then he could go back to St. Martin's, back to his books and his quiet corner of the world, where he tried to be as small as possible. He didn't know it yet, but being invisible was about to become impossible. His life was about to change forever. Brix was about to cross the street when a scream cut through the morning air. It wasn't like any scream he'd ever heard before. This was the sound of real fear. His heart jumped in his chest. The scream came from Joe's Diner. Brix froze. Part of him wanted to run away. That was what he always did when trouble came. Run, hide, disappear. But something pulled him toward the diner instead. Through the big front windows, he could see people moving fast. Someone knocked over a chair. A big man with a gray beard rushed from table to table. More screams came from inside. Before Bricks knew what he was doing, his feet carried him to the door. The smell of coffee and bacon hit him as he pushed it open. Inside, everything was chaos. Bikers stood from their seats, talking. All at once, in the middle of the diner, a woman held a tiny baby in her arms. Her face was white with fear. "She's not breathing," the woman cried. "My baby isn't breathing." The big man with the gray beard paced back and forth. His leather vest had patches that said, "Hell's Angels and President." His hands shook as he ran them through his hair. "Someone call 911. He shouted. His voice was deep and rough like gravel. "Where's the ambulance?" They said 10 minutes, someone answered. "That's too long," the man yelled. "My granddaughter needs help now." Brick's newspaper bag slipped from his shoulder and hit the floor with a thud. Everyone turned to look at him. Normally, this would make Bricks want to disappear, but he wasn't thinking about himself now. His eyes were on the baby. Her tiny face was turning blue. "I know CPR," Brick said. His voice came out stronger than he expected. The big man looked at Bricks for 1 second, his eyes wide with surprise. Then he nodded. "Help her, please." The woman placed the baby on a table that someone had cleared. Bricks stepped forward. His hands were shaking, but his mind was clear. He remembered every step from the CPR class. Check for breathing. Clear the airway. Start compressions. The baby was so small. Bricks used only 2 fingers to press gently on her chest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then a small breath into her mouth and nose. He could feel everyone watching him. The diner was so quiet now that he could hear the clock ticking on the wall. "Come on, little one," Bricks whispered as he worked. "Breathe for me, Eth." Bricks' world narrowed down to just this moment. Just this tiny life in his hands. Nothing else mattered. Not the years of being alone. Not the bullies. Not the fear that lived in his chest. Every day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Another breath. "Please," the big man whispered. Tears ran down into his beard. "Please save my angel." Angel. That was her name. Bricks looked at her tiny face. Her eyelashes were so small they looked like brush strokes on her cheeks. "Come on, Angel," Bricks said. "Your family needs you." 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Another breath. Then just when Bricks thought it wouldn't work, Angel made a small sound, a cough. Then another. Her little chest rose and fell. Her face turned from blue to pink. And then the most beautiful sound Bricks had ever heard. She started to cry. The diner exploded with cheers. The woman, Angel's mother, cried as she took her baby back. The big man stared at Bricks like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. "You saved her," he said in a voice thick with emotion. "You saved my granddaughter's life." Bricks stood there, not knowing what to say or do. His hands still tingled from the compressions. His heart beat so hard. He could feel it in his throat. "What's your name, son?" the big man asked. "Bricks," he answered quietly. "Bricks Miller." "Bricks Miller," the man repeated like he was memorizing it. "I won't forget that name. Not ever." The ambulance came and took Angel to the hospital. The big man, who told Bricks his name was Frank, shook Bricks's hand so hard it hurt. "I owe you, son," he said. "I owe you everything." Bricks walked back to St. Martin's in a daze. His newspaper bag was still at the diner, but he didn't care. For the first time in his life, he had done something that mattered. 3 days passed. Bricks went to school. He did his homework. He ate his meals alone, just like always. But something felt different inside him. When Dex pushed him in the hallway, Bricks didn't feel as scared as before. On the 4th day, Mrs. Peterson called him to her office. "There's been a call about you," she said. Her voice was strange, like she couldn't decide if the news was good Or bad? Am I in trouble? Bricks asked. No, she said. A man named Frank called. He said you saved his granddaughter's life. Bricks looked at his shoes. I just did what I learned in the CPR class. Mrs. Peterson smiled. He asked a lot of questions about you. Where you go to school, how long you've been at St. Martin's. She paused. He seemed very interested in you, Bricks. That evening, Bricks sat by his window, watching the rain. He wondered how baby Angel was doing. Was she home from the hospital? Was she sleeping in a real crib in a real home with people who loved her? The next morning was Saturday again. Bricks got up early for his paper route. But when he stepped into the main hall, all the other boys were crowded around the windows. What's going on? Bricks asked, but no one answered. They were too busy looking outside. Bricks pushed through the crowd to see. What he saw made his mouth drop open. The entire driveway of St. Martin's was lined with motorcycles, big ones, small ones, all shiny in the morning sun, and next to them stood men and women in leather vests. Some had beards, some had tattoos. All of them stood tall and still looking at the front door. What are all those bikers doing here? One boy whispered. I bet they're going to tear this place down, another said. They're waiting for someone, said Dex, who suddenly appeared beside Bricks. For once, Dex didn't sound mean. He sounded scared. Mr. Davis, the head of St. Martin's, walked into the hall. His face was pale. Bricks Miller, he called. These people are asking for you. A cold feeling filled Bricks's stomach. Maybe Frank was mad at him. Maybe he did something wrong when he helped Angel. Maybe they blamed him for something. Bricks walked to the front door on shaky legs. Mr. Davis put a hand on his shoulder. Do you know these people? Bricks nodded. I met one of them. His name is Frank. When Bricks stepped outside, the morning air was cool on his face. He counted 7 steps down to the driveway. Each step felt like walking in a dream. Frank stood at the bottom of the steps. He looked even bigger in the daylight. Behind him were rows and rows of bikers. Bricks had never seen so many in one place. There were old ones with gray beards, young ones with clean faces, even some women with bright-colored hair. Frank walked up to meet Bricks. His boots made heavy sounds on the steps. Bricks Miller, he said. His voice was so deep that Bricks could almost feel it in his chest. Yes, sir, Bricks said quietly. My granddaughter is home now. She's healthy. She's alive. Frank's voice cracked on the last word. Because of you. Bricks didn't know what to say. He looked down at his hands. Look at me, son. Frank said. Bricks looked up. Frank's eyes were wet with tears. I asked around about you, Frank said. I know you've been alone a long time. Then Frank did something that shocked Bricks. He took off his leather vest and held it out. On the back were the words, Hell's Angels, and underneath a new patch that said, Honorary Member. This is for you, Frank said. Frank turned to the crowd of bikers. He raised his hand and as one all 793 bikers said 3 words that Bricks had never heard, directed at him before. You are family. Bricks stood frozen on the steps of St. Martin's. The leather vest felt heavy in his hands. Behind him the boys who had always ignored or bullied him pressed their faces to the windows. In front of him, hundreds of bikers waited, their faces kind in a way Bricks had never seen before. I don't understand, Bricks said, his voice small against the morning air. Frank put a big hand on Bricks' shoulder. You're one of us now, son. Anyone who saves an angel is family. To the angels. A woman stepped forward. She had long, brown hair and eyes that looked tired, but happy. In her arms was baby Angel, wrapped in a pink blanket. Would you like to hold her? She asked. Bricks nodded, his throat too tight for words. Angel was warm and solid in his arms, so different from when he'd last held her. Her eyes were open now, bright and curious, looking right at him. She wrapped her tiny hand around his finger and held on tight. She knows you, the woman said softly. Babies remember who loves them. Love Bricks had almost forgotten what that word meant. It had been so long since anyone had used it around him. Frank handed Bricks a small card. "This is my auto shop," he said. "We need someone to help out after school. Good pay, too. If you want it, the job is yours." Bricks couldn't speak. He just nodded, holding the card like it might float away if he didn't grip it tight enough. That afternoon, Frank took Bricks to Joe's diner. This time, Bricks walked through the door with his head up, not down. The same people who had watched him save Angel's life now stood and clapped when he entered. The sound filled the room like thunder. "Order anything you want," Frank said as they sat at a big table. "It's all on me." Bricks ordered a hamburger with fries and a chocolate shake, food he rarely got at Street Martins's. As he ate, bikers came by to shake his hand or pat his back. Some told him stories about Frank. Others asked about his classes at school. No one called him orphan boy. No one made him feel small. "We have something else for you," Frank said. When Bricks finished eating, he handed Bricks a cell phone. "This is yours now. All our numbers are in it. Day or night, you need anything you call. Someone will always answer." Bricks ran his fingers over the smooth screen. He had never had a phone before. Never had anyone to call. "And one more thing," Frank added, his voice getting rough again. "Every Sunday, my daughter makes family dinner. 6 o'clock sharp. You have a place at our table. Always. A family dinner." A place that was his. Bricks felt something warm spread through his chest, melting the cold that had been there for so long. The sun was setting when Frank asked, "You ready to head back to St. Martin's?" Bricks nodded. But he didn't want the day to end. "How about a ride?" Frank pointed to his motorcycle, big and black, parked outside. Bricks had never been on a motorcycle before. Frank handed him a helmet and showed him where to sit and what to hold on to. Then the engine roared to life, vibrating under them like a living thing. As they pulled away from Joe's diner, the other bikers followed. The sound of all those engines together was like nothing Bricks had ever heard before. The wind rushed past his face, cool and fresh. The world looked different from the back of a motorcycle, bigger, more open, full of places to go. They rode past the edge of town, where the roads opened up and trees lined both sides. The setting sun turned the sky orange and pink and purple all at once. Bricks held on tight, but for the first time in his life, he wasn't afraid. As the motorcycle carried him forward, Bricks thought about the photo under his pillow, his parents smiling at the camera, holding him when he was just a baby like Angel. They would never come back. That pain would always be there. But now he knew something he hadn't known before. Family wasn't just about where you came from. Sometimes family was where you found it or where it found you. Roaring into your life on 793 motorcycles when you least expected it.